Blake Shelton's appearance on Good Morning America was meant to be a lighthearted interview promoting his latest music and tour, but things quickly spiraled into unexpected tension when co-anchor George Stephanopoulos shifted the conversation from Blake's career to political undertones within the country music industry. At first, Blake tried to brush off the questions with humor, leaning into his usual laid-back charm, but George pressed harder, drawing connections between lyrics, cultural debates, and Blake's public image as a voice for Middle America. Blake's relaxed smile began to fade, and his tone grew sharper as he reminded George that he was there to talk about music, not politics. The atmosphere on set thickened as Blake's frustration became clear, his answers turning blunt and his body language stiff. George, known for his persistence, didn't let go, asking follow-ups that touched nerves, and the clash became less about the questions themselves and more about a battle of control, with George refusing to soften his line of inquiry and Blake growing visibly impatient. Viewers could feel the electricity through their screens as Blake's temper reached a breaking point, his voice rising as he cut off George mid-sentence, delivering an angry retort that silenced the studio for a moment. The silence didn't last long before Blake leaned forward, pointing out that audiences tune in to Good Morning America to feel uplifted, not to see musicians grilled on matters outside their art, and his irritation boiled over into an outright explosion. He slammed his hand on the armrest of his chair, his Oklahoma drawl sharpening as he told George he was done with the nonsense, shaking his head in disbelief. Gasps echoed through the live studio as Blake stood up abruptly, his microphone still clipped to his shirt, amplifying every sound of his frustration. George attempted to regain control, trying to calm him down with a measured response, but Blake was past the point of returning to small talk. His final words, a fiery declaration about respecting boundaries between art and politics, left the audience stunned as he ripped off his mic and stormed off set. The crew scrambled to cut to a commercial break, but the drama had already ignited social media, with clips spreading instantly across platforms. Fans were split, some cheering Blake for standing his ground, others siding with George's hard-hitting questions. But one thing was undeniable. The clash had become one of the most explosive live television moments in recent memory, cementing itself as a conversation that would be replayed and debated long after the cameras stopped rolling. Backstage, the chaos only intensified as producers rushed to manage the fallout while Blake paced furiously, still shaking his head and muttering about how the whole segment had been set up. Crew members attempted to calm him down, assuring him that the intention was never to corner him, but Blake wasn't hearing it. He felt ambushed, convinced that the interview had crossed a line from genuine curiosity into pointed provocation. George, meanwhile, remained seated at the desk as the show went to commercial, visibly rattled but trying to maintain composure while co-hosts whispered among themselves about how to salvage the broadcast. When the cameras returned, George offered a diplomatic explanation to the audience, insisting that the show values open dialogue and respects all its guests, but viewers at home could sense the awkward tension lingering in his voice. Online, hashtags like #Blake Shelton meltdown and #GM, a explosive moment trended instantly, with fans flooding Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with clips of the confrontation. Some praised Blake for refusing to let himself be cornered, while others accused him of overreacting and storming out instead of standing firm on live TV. Industry insiders began speculating about whether this would affect future interviews, with whispers that publicists for other stars might think twice before booking their clients on morning shows known for blending entertainment with political undertones. By the time Blake left the building, escorted by security to avoid the growing crowd of reporters waiting outside, the damage had been done. The fiery exchange had not only overshadowed his music promotion but also sparked a national conversation about the line between entertainment and politics in celebrity interviews. As the dust settled, the incident began to take on a life of its own, stretching far beyond the walls of the Good Morning America studio. Blake Shelton's fans rallied behind him, flooding his social media with messages of support, insisting that George Stephanopoulos had pushed him too far with what they saw as needlessly provocative questions. On the other hand, critics argued that Blake's reaction was a sign of fragility, suggesting that a seasoned star should have been able to handle the tough line of questioning without losing his cool. Entertainment news outlets quickly seized on the moment, replaying the clip across countless segments, while political commentators joined the fray, pointing to the clash as yet another example of the blurred boundaries between celebrity culture and political discourse. Within hours, media think pieces emerged analyzing how morning shows had shifted from lighthearted promotion to probing platforms where stars could be cornered, willingly or not, into political debates. Blake's team, scrambling to control the narrative, released a carefully worded statement emphasizing that he respects journalists but felt the tone of the conversation went beyond the purpose of his appearance. George, for his part, issued no apology but addressed the controversy the following morning, calmly stating that his role as an interviewer is to ask difficult questions and that he always welcomes spirited dialogue. The divide deepened online, as fans and critics clashed in comment sections, turning the blow-up into a viral phenomenon that blurred into meme culture within days. Whether Blake would return to morning television anytime soon remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: his fiery exchange with George had cemented itself as one of the most unforgettable live TV moments of the year, a moment that would be dissected, debated, and replayed for weeks to come. In the weeks that followed, the incident snowballed into something larger than either Blake Shelton or George Stephanopoulos could have anticipated, cementing itself as a cultural flashpoint. In the ongoing tug-of-war between entertainment and journalism, Blake, who had always cultivated a down-to-earth, approachable image, found himself in unfamiliar territory, with headlines labeling him everything from a truth-teller who refused to play Hollywood's scripted game to a celebrity too, thin-skinned to face tough questions. Meanwhile, George, though experienced in navigating political controversies, now found himself accused by some viewers of abandoning journalistic integrity in favor of sensationalism, as critics claimed. He seemed more interested in baiting Blake than in having a meaningful conversation. As the story dominated talk shows, late-night comedians took turns poking fun at the exchange, with some joking about Blake storming off, set only to return later with a song about the incident, while others turned George into the butt of punchlines about starting a bar fight at 9 a.m. Behind the scenes, ABC executives reportedly grew anxious about the negative attention, debating whether to retool their interview approach with celebrities to avoid further clashes that might alienate big-name guests. At the same time, Blake's record label strategized how to spin the uproar into an opportunity, floating the idea of weaving the themes of frustration and defiance into his upcoming music. For fans, though, the moment became emblematic of something deeper, a raw reminder that even stars who seem larger than life can be pushed to their breaking point, when the spotlight feels more like an interrogation lamp. By the time the frenzy began to fade, both Blake and George had moved on professionally, but the clip of their fiery exchange lived on across YouTube, TikTok, and late-night reruns, destined to resurface anytime conversations turned to live TV meltdowns.